Welcome to this week's episode of Field Trip Friday. Today we took a trip to one of the best museums in Northeast Michigan.
Come with us as we travel back in time.
Let's go! The Besser Museum inspires curiosity, represents community, and cultivates personal legacies.
The museum is home to art, history, and science exhibits to help enlighten and educate the community.
It's a reminder to visitors of the historic artifacts around Northeast Michigan and here in Alpena. Our first stop on the trip was the print art exhibit.
The modern-looking room held historic prints from American artists all over the world.
American artists haven't always held the highest esteem in the world of the arts. It wasn't until about the turn of the 20th century, really about the 1950s, that American artists started gaining worldwide reputations as having merit in their skills. Okay. And with this particular collection, we're focusing on urban American scenes and rural American scenes.
The prints varied from steel workers to detailed structures of architectural buildings.
While passing through the museum, the artifacts from World War I caught our attention.
It was interesting to see all of the men from the area involved with World War I.
There were stories, pictures, uniforms, and letters to help tell the stories of the brave military in our area.
So I know what's super cool about this particular exhibit. These are actual locals from Alpena and around Michigan in general.
Yes. What was really cool about this is we actually reached out to the Genealogical Society for Northeast Michigan and then to any local families in the area who might have material pertaining to the relatives from the World War I era. So we were able to get several photos and several bios of men who had served from the area, or there are a couple men who served and then moved to the area after the war. And some of those are the happy ending stories where they leave, serve their country, see all this horrific battle, and then make it back to the States to become a farmer for the rest of their good old days.
Aww.
Knowing there were brave soldiers on our soil willing to fight for our country gives Alpena a strong name.
Switching gears, we headed into the Sky Theater where we discussed the stars and the ancient Greeks who came up with the constellations.
The Sky Theater holds many shows, exploring the sky, focusing on eclipses, studying our solar system, and even a guide to the universe.
Heading down into the lower level, we viewed the wildlife exhibit, which showed animals ranging from bears to bobcats and even owls.
What we found interesting was the wall of invasive and native fish that really caught our eyes.
So all of the fish in this exhibit are in the Great Lakes right now. This is our Great Lakes fish exhibit. Here we have our native species, and down on the next section we have our non-native and invasive species. Like you've got the Chinook salmon, which we know that salmon were brought into the Great Lakes, but the brown trout. Alpena has a brown trout festival every single year, so wouldn't you assume that the brown trout is a native species?
Right. It's not a native species.
It is not a native species.
And we have a festival named by this invasive species.
Also located in the lower level was the focal pendulum.
What's really neat though is it focuses on Newton's laws of motion. Mm-hmm. So we know that an object in motion stays in motion unless an outside
force acts upon it.
Exactly. So in a perfect world, this pendulum would never stop. Once you started it on the plane that it's on, it would never ever stop unless something acts upon it. However, because we live on Earth, we have gravity, and gravity is constantly pulling on this, which is an outside force. And then we have friction, so air resistance. So as it's moving, the air around it is pushing against it, and that's causing it to slow down as well.
The last exhibit we visited was the amazing fossil collection.
The unique exhibit brings visitors from all around the world.
And it provides kids and families with their own personal digging material to search for fossils.
So 450 million years ago, Michigan was part of a giant land mass, and because of plate tectonics, we were located down by the equator, which meant that we were a shallow sea. So imagine going somewhere in tropical life and you have a shallow sea, and it's like a nutrient feast. So we had everything from sea starfish to sea lilies to snails and clams, and they were a different form of those. So we call them crinoids. We've got brachiopods, we had cephalopods, different fish. We had armored fish. And what's really unique is that people don't realize that the fossils we have here in Alpena are actually older than the dinosaurs.
Really?
Yep, so it was the sea life, and then the dinosaurs, and then the era that we're in now.
As you can see, the Besser Museum is full of history from Alpena.
With its many exhibits, along with its awesome planetarium show, it's definitely worth a visit.